going to move on to matters to do with banks and economy.
So as many people will be all too painfully aware, the Bank of England put up interest rates again this week. So the headline rates, base rate is now 5.25%, and inflation, as measured by the CPI, is still around 8%, 7.9%, so around 4 times the target. There are many strange things that are starting to become obvious in the world bond markets and in the debt markets that ultimately service these government debts and government overreach. Here we have something odd happening in Japan. Now, Japan had fixed interest rates at 0, and then that wasn't sustainable, and then it was 0.25%, and then that wasn't sustainable, and then it was 0.5%, and as you can see in this graph, it's blasted through that. And just for a chuckle, and this is purely for comedy, the comedy effect, let's go to the Central Bank of Japan and find out what they're saying about it. And here we have the head of the Bank of Japan, and the Financial Times are praising his tweak, and they say it's a cleverly designed tweak. And what has actually happened is they've gone and they've said, well, we had a 0% interest rate policy, and we've reinterpreted that. That's, well, with a plus or minus 0.5% range. That meant they had effectively moved the interest rates up to 0.5%. And now we've not changed anything, but we've made that now a reference value. And the 0.5% plus or minus applies again, so it's now up to 1%. So what he's actually done is he's doubled their interest rate policy, but he's not admitted he's doing it. And the language is very strange, and it shows a desperation to control the narrative that's not based on anything real. And just very quickly, to go to what is real, so this lady was featured in the iNewspaper today. She earns $2,000 a month. Her mortgage payment's now $2,700. She's been helped by family and food banks, and she's struggling to live. She is unable to sell the house. She's unable to remortgage the house. She's unable to get out from this millstone that she's now got. And this is the reality for increasing numbers of our people in Britain.
Indeed. Well, a big thank you to somebody who pointed out this petition GB News is running at the moment, Don't Kill Cash. Now, this is largely off the back of matters to do with the banks closing down people's accounts. This has stirred up everything to do with banking. But of course, yes, we've all been looking at cash going. And if I just add a bit in here, this is where you can sign in your name and add your signature. 243,342 people signed up to date. So this is quite a big campaign being run by GB News. But I thought it'd be interesting just to flick through reports about cash and what's happening. So this is May 2019. Cash here to stay as government commits to protecting access. Current makeup of UK coins and notes will be maintained for years to come. So this is all reassurance that nothing untoward is going on. We've got the Bank of England here, though, in 2019, June, getting the public to think about cash dying out and what are the new digital ways to pay. So the bulk of that very short article is all about the benefits of cashless society. And if I just show you a little bit more of it, we've got some nice graphics here. Is cash in decline? And it goes on, what does the future hold for cash? But of course, what it really does is it gives you all the benefits of what a cashless society. It's fast and convenient, widely accepted, is helpful for budget management. So quite clear that the policy coming in through the Bank of England is for cashless. Was that something that was debated in Westminster at all? It doesn't appear to be. It seems to be policy within the bank itself. Here's a Reuters report. Bank of England tells banks to preserve access to cash. Now, this is 2021. So on one hand, the Bank of England is busy saying that cash is going to go. And on the other hand, it's saying, don't worry, we're going to preserve it. But David, you'll like this, because in the article, the blame for cash going is put squarely on the back of all matters to do with COVID-19 and lockdown. And if we have a look at a different source, this is Charged. Retail tech news, it says in 2021, the UK will be almost cashless by 2024. So we're not far away from that. And it talks about a recent string of initiatives, and free-to-use cash machines are disappearing. So they're pretty happy here what's going. But if we get into the article, oh dear, it's that nasty COVID virus that's killed off cash. So I think the public is being spun a line, and this is a very deep line, but we don't have to go too far to see that the Behavioural Insights team, whilst we can't point a finger at their work deliberately in getting rid of cash, we can show that they're now deeply embedded with the banks in order to encourage green behaviours in the public. So here's the Behavioural Insights team, and in this article they are boasting of their interaction through an organisation called Cogo, and that is working with the NatWest with the aim to help and inform and change customer thinking and behaviours. So very quick question, David, do you get a warm feeling from the banks being at work in the background, changing not only our behaviours, but the way we actually think?
Not awfully, and the reason is, when they say COVID killed cash, it certainly did it some harm, but it wasn't, of course, COVID. What it was regulations that prevented people approaching other human beings, and therefore they couldn't use cash because it's physically impossible to do so without approaching another human being, and everything was shut down, personalised, online, and human interaction by government edict was prevented, and that's what harmed the use of cash. And when they say COVID-19, that is, of course, what they mean.
Indeed. Well, if you want to know more about Cogo itself, you can obviously go to their website. Here's the big headline: carbon footprint management products that enable individuals and businesses to measure, understand and reduce their impact on the climate. Interestingly, this company came out of New Zealand. They're on a mission to empower hundreds of millions of individuals and businesses worldwide to measure, understand and reduce their impact on the climate. We're on this mission to be the world's first gigacorn because we're passionate about the future well-being of our planet. A more sustainable future is within our grasp if we all act now. Can you believe it? A single company which is going to empower hundreds of millions of people, and they're going to be enabled to tackle climate change. This is utopian dream, but very...
And if we all act now, almost sounds like a threat, Brian.
Of course, because you should be fearful of everything to do with the so-called climate change. But let's bring in the European Investment Bank, which I mentioned earlier in the news in the Ukrainian segment. This is a quote from the president. We have still a long way to go when it comes to climate, but the results show that the bank is transforming faster than anyone could have expected into the, quote, EU climate bank. So if anybody is in any doubts as to the mix between banks and fiscal policy and cash and money, no. The banks are going to control our behaviour in order to get us to save the planet, and any behavioural change techniques will, of course, be of value to them. Now, here's the World Economic Forum. Many people will be following them pretty quickly. And we can see here in 2020 that they were fully into it, the benefits of a cashless society. And if you went through that article with the World Economic Forum, they'd be talking about India. So I thought we'd just put up one paper. There are many such papers, but this is a group talking about cashless payment, a behavioural change to economic growth. This one is based on India, and the World Economic Forum happened in that particular article to be focusing on India. So the banks have now got the weapon of politicised behavioural change, and they're going to use it to change our whole life experience, never mind whether we can use cash. And I'll just rub this one in because the World Economic Forum here also says very strongly that behavioural experiments help boost sustainable leadership. So the leaders worldwide, the Trudeaus, the Tony Blairs, they're all going to be able to benefit by the use of behavioural change and behavioural experiments. So what does the World Economic Forum say here? Behavioural experiments give leaders tangible actions to embed responsibilities and sustainable behaviours within their organisations. Through behavioural experimentation, organisations can de-risk change. Oh, this will be useful, and fully unlock human potential. Leadership experiments with 10 young global leaders show that organisations that embrace iterative, that's the salami slicing technique to get change in without people notice. So organisations that embrace iterative change significantly boost their sustainability score. So pretty clear what's coming.
And very interesting, Brian, that was illustrated with children, because they're talking about global leadership. Why would you illustrate that with children?
Because every child matters, David, is the answer.